Hello, Michael Swain here after Kansas football's 38-27 win over BYU here at David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium. And for the first time in 108 years, Kansas is 4-0 in back-to-back seasons. The Jayhawks got it done here today in what was not a perfect performance, but one that KU did enough in all three phases of the game to win. And that's all you can ask for. And I think we're at that point in the season now where you look at KU and the different ways that they've won games and the things that they've shown, and I think there's a lot of improvement you can see over last season. And I think so much of this program reflects that. The improvement gradually over time, some might even say a little bit faster than I think a lot of people expected. For me, it starts defensively because last season, what was the Achilles heel of this team? It was the defense. You think about games like at Oklahoma, games like at Baylor, the defense can't get stops, and then it's hard for our offense to play catch up. Well, this is a game where the defensive performance allowed the offense to play catch up because the offense was not great in the first half. One scoring drive in the first half when I believe they had 5 possessions. Not what you'd expect from this KU team. And yet, because of the defensive performance, KU was able to stay within a possession at halftime. And I look at the start of the game. Nobody embodies improvement, getting better, growing over time than Kobe Bryant. Think about, KU's about to go down to Austin. Think about the first time, really, Kobe Bryant burst onto the scene, which was in that Texas game. He was small, not physical, and think about the play he made on the sideline right behind me over here. On the second play, third play of the game on defense, that exact play is not something he would have done 3 years ago. He said as much post-game. And I think that's a great indication of just the growth over time that I think is what makes college football great and what I think Lance Leipold really enjoys about being the coach at Kansas as well. So I think for me, I look at that play right there. It embodies so much about this Kansas program. And then you go to the second half, right? And I think it's another person who probably reflects Kansas, and it's Kenny Logan, right? Scoring his first touchdown since 2020. Another guy that has stayed through thick and thin and is now getting to reap the rewards of that. I think generally, right, the defense is growing together. The defensive front was really stellar against a BYU offensive line. I mean, KU allowed 9 rushing yards. I'm still trying to figure out the last time KU allowed less than 20. They allowed 26 rushing yards to Iowa State last year. And so I'm going to have to go back and figure out when it was before that, right? KU shut down that aspect of the game for BYU. And look, Keaton Silva's throws for 350 yards, but it took him 51 passes to do so. 7 yards an attempt. It's not necessarily super explosive numbers. Now, there were explosive plays along the way, and if there's one thing that KU will need to work on, it's limiting those explosive plays through the air. Because if KU can stop the run consistently, and then they can limit explosive plays through the air, that defense is going to be able to get more stops, and KU's going to be able to win a lot more games this year. So I think for me, the defense was really encouraging. Lance Leipold said it was maybe the best defensive performance of the secondary, so basically non-defensive linemen, that KU's had. Really impressed. Now you look at the offense, right? And it was almost the opposite, where you felt like the offense was kind of letting you down. More penalties, right? There's the drive that's negated where, KU faces a 3rd and 1. They're probably going to get it. And then a 5-yard penalty moves them back. They end up having to punt. A couple more punts there in the first half too. And then you go to the second half, and I think just the offense really opened up once Jalen Daniels had a couple of carries, where BYU then had to respect Daniels carrying the ball because we didn't see a lot of that last week, right? Remember that against Nevada, Jalen Daniels, that really wasn't in the playbook. And then it was here today, and it really opens up the offense where in the second half, KU averaged about 8.1 yards per carry for most of the second half until they got a little bit stuck in the red zone, and then that number dropped to 6.1 carries in the second half. Still a really good number against what Andy Kotelnicki said is probably going to be one of the best front sevens Kansas is going to play in all season. So, KU in the end does a good enough job on the ground. Jalen Daniels does enough. It wasn't a perfect performance for him through the air, right? I believe it was 14 and 19 passing. I've got it right here. 14 and 19 passing. Not something that you're going to go right home about, but enough to get the job done. And that's what matters, right? At the end of the day, it's about winning football games. And that's what Kansas did here today. So now what's next? Well, a huge matchup with Texas. We'll see on Sunday afternoon if KU's ranked. I think they should be. 2 Power 5 wins, pretty convincing. I think this is a KU team that should be ranked, and so it should be, a really high-profile matchup there in Austin next week. Kobe Bryant, post-game, he's always a good quote. He said they're treating this like a conference championship game type of week where they can really go make a statement at Texas, and so we'll see if KU is able to do it. But the things that they showed here today, right, the defensive improvement in the trenches, I think the physicality of the offense, the ability to wear down a team like BYU, those are some really positive signs for KU in the long run. So this team looks like it's continuing to trend in the right direction. Obviously, a lot more still to come. So as always, stay tuned to Fog.net, and we'll keep you covered with post-game coverage.